Welcome to Module 4 of the Library Lab, Scholarly Publication. I'm Amanda Ross-White. Whenever we communicate, whatever our purpose, we have an audience in mind. All these books are about diabetes, and all of them are of great quality. But you wouldn't give a 6-year-old newly diagnosed with diabetes the textbooks, and you wouldn't give an endocrinologist, a physician who specializes in diabetes, the Caillou book. Or, for that matter, the Practical Diabetes Care textbook, because a specialist who has devoted decades of their career to the topic would probably even find that too broad. But all these books can be found in the library at Queen's, because we need textbooks for our future doctors and nurses, and we need kids' books for our future teachers and health educators. Knowing about how scholarly communication works helps to choose the right tools for the right job. What is a book? I mean, it sounds obvious, doesn't it? But it isn't as straightforward as you might think. Traditionally, books were something you could hold in your hand. In fact, the first entry in the Oxford English Dictionary is a portable volume consisting of a series of written, printed, or illustrated pages bound together for ease of reading. But a majority of the books we buy at Queen's are electronic books. Are electronic books still books? Are audiobooks books? What makes them books? In that case, the second definition also applies: a written composition long enough to fill one or more such volumes. So a book is something long, or at least longer than a journal article or a website. It has enough pages, either physical or virtual, that you'd need to bind them together or you to print them off. Books also have editions. If you want to make changes, you create a new edition. This isn't a bad thing. Because you can refer to a specific edition, you can trust that other people have the same version you do. But this also means that books take longer to publish and are harder to change if a mistake is made. There are only a few major book publishers in the world. Imprints are the different marketing arms of the publishers that target different audiences. For example, Bertelsmann owns Penguin Random House, which publishes the novels you probably read for fun, as well as Bertelsmann Academic, which includes textbooks. Relax Group is the largest publisher, and they mostly publish textbooks, especially in the sciences. They own Elsevier and Evolve and plenty of other names. So what's a website? Doesn't that sound just as obvious? But it actually isn't. Again, just because you find something using a web browser, whether through searching Google or another tool, it doesn't mean it's a website. For starters, as I mentioned with electronic books, which you can view online, there are other types of resources found online. Many things are not accessible publicly, whether they're behind a paywall or a corporate intranet or available only through a subscription. Websites are dynamic, which means they can easily be changed and often are continually being updated. This has both pros and cons, of course, too. The pros being that mistakes can be quickly fixed and that information can be super current, but the cons being that websites can be ephemeral. They can just disappear. Check out some of these vintage versions of the library website, for example. So what is a journal? Often called academic journals or scientific journals or periodicals, they're niche publications that are how scientists communicate with other scientists. They are published periodically, hence the name, sometimes as often as every week, like the New England Journal of Medicine, and sometimes only a couple of times a year. Articles in the journals tend to be fairly short, anywhere from 4 to 30 pages long, and are usually on a very narrow topic of interest to other scientists. They mostly include written reports of research studies, but also commentaries, opinions, editorials, and reviews of other research. With a couple of exceptions, they are almost entirely available online, but they aren't web pages because once they are published, they're static, not dynamic. That is, any changes must be recorded through something called an erratum or a retraction. They sometimes require a subscription and sometimes are available for free online. That's called open access. But what really makes academic journals unique is the publishing model. Papers published in journals, again with a couple of exceptions, go through peer review. And this is how it works. First, an author or a group of authors write a paper they'd like to see published. They submit it to a journal, and the editor, or often multiple editors, first take a look at it to see if it's suitable for publication. The editor of a journal is an expert in the field. For example, the Journal of Trauma Nursing's editor-in-chief is Dr. Judy McHale, who is the program director of the Michigan Trauma Quality Improvement Program at the University of Michigan. If she decides the paper isn't suitable for the journal, maybe because it's poorly written or because it's not on topic, she'll reject it. If she does think it is suitable, it goes out to 2 or more peer reviewers. These are also experts in the topic, but they may also include statistical experts, experts in research methodologies, or others as needed. Peer reviewers are volunteers. The reviewers read the paper and look at the data. They may have a lot of suggestions, they may have only a few suggestions, and they may decide that the paper still isn't good enough for publication. Reviewers are sometimes anonymous, sometimes not. They cannot see the recommendations the other reviewers have put forward, so sometimes their recommendations are contradictory. The editor puts it all together, and sometimes even sends it out for more people to look at. The author or authors then make the necessary changes and resubmit it. There may be a few rounds of revisions and reviews before the editor is satisfied and the paper can go ahead. Or not. It still might be rejected at this stage. Here's our example, the Journal of Trauma Nursing. It says right in the title that it is the official publication of the Society of Trauma Nurses. You can also see the name of the publishing company, Wolters Kluwer, in the top right-hand corner. It's been around for 30 years, as you can see from the big shield on the front page of their website, which is why this is volume 30, issue 4. It's published every other month, so 6 issues a year, and this is the 4th issue of their 30th year. So why does it matter? Well, all 3 of these different types of publications are important and useful for your research. All of them have different purposes, and when citing them, use slightly different information to describe them. So in this example, we have a book called Trauma Nursing from Resuscitation Through Rehabilitation. We have a website, Roadway Safety is No Accident, from the Society of Trauma Nurses. And we have a journal article, Comparing Opinions on Meaningful Recognition, to Views of Trauma Nursing Leaders and Staff Align. Now it's your turn. I've got a selection of journal articles and books available on the tables in front of you. See if you can answer as many of these questions as you can from what you see on the page.